Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things, foosball, table tennis, dartboards, classic stand-up arcade games, pool tables, air hockey tables. Then you got home theater seating, pub tables, card tables, bar stools. Games and Things is the ultimate man cave store. Visit them this week at the corner of Lovell Road and Kingston Pike in West Knoxville. Scott and Lisa Mellon will take good care of you. I'm telling you, if you want to make your home a fun home, Games and Things is the place to start. Check out ourgameroom.com to learn more, but I'm telling you, if you go into that showroom, you're going to enjoy yourself. It's a great place. All right, Games and Things. Let's welcome in the next member of the panel. We have longtime sports writer Bob Hodge, longtime member of this panel. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Speaking of man cave.
Thinking of man cave. By the way, before we get into this segment, there is a little bit of news. I don't know if it's been finalized yet. I haven't checked the tweet box here in a second, but when you look at Pete Thamel, I think, was the first guy to put this out there, that Tennessee is on the verge, if they haven't already landed him, brought in a guy named Billy High, who had the title of general manager under Mack Brown at North Carolina. Basically, everybody gets these different names in terms of player personnel director, general manager. They call him different things. He's basically a recruiting guru that you're bringing in here. If it's a done deal yet, I apologize again, haven't checked Twitter since we've been here. But on the verge of bringing him in from North Carolina, which would be a nice get, especially since you're wanting to get into the Carolinas, and Mack Brown has done a good job since going back to North Carolina of recruiting. So if they can land the Billy High, if that's finalized, it's a good get for the Volunteers, you would think.
Yep.
But let me talk about the transfer portal very quickly here. Vols are starting to see their share of exits from the football program. Kieron Calvert, for example, is leaving. Now, this is a guy who might have played a bigger role next year if he could stay away from the injury bug, which has really hurt his career. But you're going to have a hole with Cade Mays going to the NFL. You're going to have a hole at right tackle, and Calvert was a guy who had experience who could have filled that hole. So let me go ahead and put up the list of all the Tennessee guys who are currently in the portal. Some of these guys have been there for a while. You see, like Harrison Bailey, he left mid-season. D. Beck with Trinity Bell, and you see where they've gone. Calvert, Eastern Kentucky. So Tyon Evans, there was a good player, but there were the reports that they were okay with letting him go, that there were some behind-the-scenes issues there. You don't see anybody going to major programs. It's not Alabama, Oklahoma, Michigan State like you saw last year. But I still ask you, with a guy like Calvert who's gone, is it concerning? Are you starting to get concerned about the people in the portal, or you look at this and go, nah, this is just normal stuff? Bob?
Well, it's still not normal stuff because this is so new. So, I mean, normal will be
normal.
3 or 4 years down the road, you'll know. But I'm thinking that this does not look like last year, because last year you were losing some real meat off of your team. And this year it looks like, okay, you're losing some depth probably. Calvert, is that somebody who may have
Possible
started?
contributor, yeah.
But it's still not the same thing as losing guys who you knew were going to start when this season began. So last year, it kind of had the feel of people leaving a sinking ship.
Yes.
This year, I think it looks more like guys saying, hey, I want to go someplace, play more, maybe some things will be more directed towards me. So I think it's, one, the numbers are so different, but two, I think it just has a different feel to it.
Concern? Reason for concern yet?
I don't think so at all. I think they need some players to leave from a number standpoint with the portal, so they knew that guys were going to be leaving. One concern you could come back to, not necessarily because of the portal, but it's just look at what's happened last year with the 2021 class. So this first-year class for Josh Heupel, you have 11 players remaining.
Yeah.
And most of the highly touted guys either didn't end up making it or left quickly, like Cayman Marley. And the reason he's leaving doesn't really matter because he's not going to be on the roster anymore. So he would probably be the most talented or highly touted player on that list that you just showed. And he's a guy that when he arrived, the hope was, okay, he could make a pretty big impact pretty quickly, and that's not going to happen. Those are guys you do have to replace moving forward.
It's looking more and more like that first class, and we knew this because you had a lot of those guys that asked out and all this other stuff, but it's looking more and more like that class is just going to be a
the
ghost
reason
class.
is insignificant. It's what you now have to replace, and that's going to be, this year's class needs some quick contributors, and the transfer portal, all that has to work out for you.
You also wonder if they're going to cut back on their own some scholarships this year as part of a self-imposed penalty, and if so, they're telling some of these guys, but find more playing time somewhere else because they know all right, this is a guy we're not going to replace. This is one, we're just going to count him as one of the scholarships that we are sacrificing to the NCAA god. But we'll see. Your guy, Vince, Chuck, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think taking that approach of some guys at the end of the roster that maybe aren't going to be factors for you, that you kind of welcome them leaving to free up spots, I think that applies, except for what Josh pointed out too. It's the 2021 class,
And
because these are guys that they recruited.
D. Beckwith is the one that's kind of puzzling to me because I think I was hoping he was going to be a guy that could fill that power running back void. Tyon Evans may not even be able to get in school. So let's don't forget about that. The other, I think it happens. You wish some of those guys would have stayed because you think they could help, but I don't see a Ty Chandler on there. You know, I don't see some other guys that left that you're like, boy, we sure wish we could have kept him.
Yeah, it's a depth thing.
One more interesting note on this transfer portal. Last week we did a big thing. Ryan Callahan was here, and we let him do the spiel on Isaiah Nair. 878 yards or 879, 878, and 12 touchdowns at Wyoming last year. Good receiver, transferring in, just committed to the Vols, and then went on a visit to Ole Miss. So that whole commitment thing might not have meant much, but he also just went to UT. He was back on UT's campus yesterday. It sounds like it went well. So you think you're still going to get Isaiah Nair, but it's part of the issue with this portal. You've seen some other guys who have said, I'm going to go here, and then immediately say, no, I'm going to go over here. So if you think commitments don't mean much in the high school game, you really don't need to pay much attention to a commitment in the portal.
And one thing I would wonder real quick, hasn't Florida assigned a coach strictly to the portal?
Yes, they have a portal coordinator, basically.
Don't you think somebody else needs to look at doing that?
I think everybody's going to wind up. Well, maybe what Billy High is coming over here to do.
I was about to say, could be Billy High.
Yeah, I was just going to say with Nair, anytime a player commits and he hasn't been to your campus and he had other visits scheduled prior to, you always have to kind of wonder about that a little bit. But I think they'll end up getting them.
All right, very good. By the way, just wanted to point out that I said in the last segment Vanderbilt's coming here. Tennessee goes to Vanderbilt. This is the game of the year where you have to go there at 9 o'clock and play in that goofy arena where everybody's on the wrong side of the court. So that was my mistake. Sorry about that. When we come back, what are we doing? Oh, yes, Georgia won a national championship, in case you didn't hear. What's the impact on the SEC? What's the impact on Tennessee? Does it change anything? I think it does. We'll discuss. Come on back.